Strap in, everyone. Today we're going deep into the world of finance and cybersecurity. Specifically, we're talking about the EU's Digital Operational Resilience Act.
Or DORA, as is more commonly known.
Right, DORA. Now, this one's for you, whether you work in finance or into cybersecurity or just want your online banking to work smoothly.
It's about making the whole financial system resilient.
Exactly. We're talking cyber attacks, natural disasters, anything you can throw at it. And the really cool part, we'll be looking at how something called Privileged Access Management.
PM.
Yeah, PM.
Right.
How it's basically like the ultimate bodyguard for your most sensitive data.
It's interesting. Before DORA, it was all about having enough money to cover risks, but now...
The EU's saying the digital world needs just as much protection.
Yeah, that's it. They want a super resilient financial ecosystem across the EU.
Okay, so like a safety net for the whole system.
Exactly. DORA pushes financial institutions to manage those digital risks. So it's not just about protecting individual banks.
But the whole interconnected web of services. So who needs to pay attention to this? It's got to be more than just the big banks, right?
Oh yeah, way broader. We're talking credit institutions, payment firms, investment folks, even crypto asset providers.
Wow, so if you're handling money or financial data online, DORA's watching.
Pretty much. And here's the kicker. Even the tech companies working with those institutions are under DORA's microscope.
So everyone's got to step up their game.
It's a chain reaction of responsibility.
Okay, so DORA's a big deal, covers a lot of ground. But let's be real, what happens if you just ignore it?
Let's just say the EU means business. We're talking fines up to 2% of a company's global turnover.
Whoa, that's got to be a lot of money.
It is.
Yeah.
For individuals, it could even be €1 million.
Ouch. They're not messing around.
And it gets even higher for those critical third-party tech providers, up to $5 million for companies and $500,000 for individual.
Plus extra penalties if you fail to report a major ICT incident.
Exactly.
Definitely shows how important this is. But before we scare everyone off, let's talk solutions. That's where PAM comes in.
Privileged Access Management.
Yeah, PAM. Reading through the source material, it really clicked for me. It's more important than I thought.
It's often seen as a niche part of cybersecurity, but for DORA compliance, PAM is absolutely vital.
It's like Fort Knox for your most important data, right?
That's a great way to put it. PAM is all about controlling and monitoring who gets access to critical systems and data. And DORA has a lot to say about that.
Yeah, it seems like it's woven into a ton of requirements. Articles 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 17, 21, 22, and 28.
That's right. All those articles touch upon the need for strong access controls.
So let's break down how PAM helps with these requirements, starting with risk management. Article 6 lays out this ICT risk management framework.
Right. It's all about having that framework in place.
So where does PAM fit into that?
Well, it's all about control. PAM gives you granular control over privileged access, which we know is a big target for cybercriminals.
Makes sense. So you can pinpoint your most sensitive data and put those controls in place.
Exactly. Think multi-factor authentication, session recording, detailed audit trails, all working together to keep those digital assets safe.
So PAM is like a security system on steroids.
You could say that.
But it's not just about reacting, right? It
Okay.
helps you be proactive, too.
Absolutely. That's where identification comes in, like Article 8 of DORA. It wants you to focus on your critical assets and who can access them.
And PAM helps you map that out.
Exactly. It helps you create that roadmap of your infrastructure
Yeah.
and highlights those weak spots.
Like having a blueprint of your entire digital fortress.
You got it. And it's not enough to just know what you have. You need to know who has the keys to the kingdom and what they're doing with them,
And PAM gives you that detail.
down to the last detail.
Okay, so you've mapped out your vulnerabilities. You've got the security systems in place. What happens when someone tries to breach the walls?
That's where protection and prevention come in, like in Article 9. PAM acts as that proactive shield for your most valuable digital treasures.
Protecting those crown jewels.
Exactly. Think strong access controls, encryption, continuous monitoring. PAM can even automatically detect and block suspicious behavior, preventing breaches before they even happen.
So it's like having that highly trained security team on high alert,
Always watching.
ready to neutralize any threat before it even gets close.
Exactly. And even if something does slip through, which can happen, PAM has incredible detection capabilities.
Right. It's not just about a strong defense, but also about spotting any cracks in the armor.
Absolutely.
Tell me more about how PAM helps with the detection piece.
Well, Article 10 of DORA, it's all about detecting those ICT-related anomalies and incidents quickly.
Right. Finding those problems fast.
And PAM shines here. It's like a 247 watchdog, constantly monitoring for any signs of trouble.
Always on guard.
Always. Think failed login attempts, access from weird locations, anything that just seems off.
So PAM's like that sixth sense for cyber threats.
Precisely. It picks up on even the smallest anomalies in access patterns and sends real-time alerts to your security team.
So they can jump into action?
Exactly. And that rapid detection is key to minimizing damage, which leads us to Article 11 response and recovery.
Right. Let's say the worst happens and there's a full-blown breach. How does PAM help you navigate that?
Firstly, it helps you contain the damage. PAM can immediately restrict access, isolating those affected systems and stopping the attack from spreading.
Damage control on a digital scale?
Exactly. And remember, all those audit trails PAM keeps, they become super valuable for forensic investigations.
It's like having a black box for your digital systems.
Exactly. It lets you retrace every step, understand what went wrong, who was involved, and how to prevent it from happening again.
Like a digital detective helping solve the cybercrime.
I like that. And it's not just about investigating the past, but also about making sure you can bounce back quickly. PAM ensures your backups are secure and can be restored fast.
Minimizing downtime and getting those systems back up and running.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about identifying risks, protecting those assets, detecting threats, and responding to incidents.
It's a lot to cover.
It is, but there's one more piece before we move on the whole backup and restoration process. Article 12 of DORA gets pretty specific about this.
Oh yeah, Article 12 is all about those robust backup and recovery policies, ensuring data integrity and continuity.
So PAM's our best friend here too.
Absolutely. Think of PAM as the guardian of your backups. It controls who can access them, making sure they're protected from tampering or deletion.
It's like having a separate vault just for those backups.
Exactly.
Double the protection. I like it. So how does PAM actually achieve that level of security for backups?
It's a multi-pronged approach. First, it restricts access. Only authorized people can touch those backup systems. Second, PAM watches all backup activity and flags anything suspicious. And finally, it ensures the backup storage itself is secure, both physically and digitally.
A fortress within a fortress. So with PAM, you've got a solid backup and restoration plan, meeting DORA's requirements and ensuring your operations can continue even if things go wrong.
Precisely. It's peace of mind, knowing you can recover quickly and get back to business.
So PAM is like a powerhouse when it comes to DORA.
It really is. From risk management to backup security, it's got you covered.
It's like the Swiss Army knife of cybersecurity for financial institutions.
I like that analogy. It highlights PAM's versatility and its ability to address multiple aspects of DORA compliance.
It's not a quick fix. It's a foundation for your digital resilience strategy.
Exactly.
So we've covered a lot, but let's take a step back and make this more relatable. How does this play out in the real world?
I love using analogies. It makes things so much clearer.
Okay, so imagine you're a bank. You've got this huge vault filled with gold bars, your customers' money, sensitive data, all that.
Right, all that valuable stuff.
DORA is like the blueprint for building that vault, making sure it can withstand anything.
I like where this is going.
And PAM is that state-of-the-art security system protecting that vault. The combination of locks, sensors, guards, cameras, all working to keep those gold bars safe.
It's a great analogy.
It's not just about a strong door. It's about layers of security, monitoring every angle, and being ready to respond to any threat.
And PM brings all of that together.
Exactly. And DORA isn't just about protecting those gold bars. It's about making sure the whole bank can keep operating, even if the vault is compromised.
Oh, yeah. It's about building resilience into everything.
So it's about having a plan B, C, and D, making sure you're not just relying on one thing.
Precisely. And that's where PAM really shines. It's not reactive. It's about building a more resilient and secure organization.
Okay, so we've established PAM is crucial for DORA. But let's think about this from someone who's not in finance. Why should they care about all of this?
That's a great question. It's easy to think of DORA and PAM as just for banks and financial institutions.
But we all rely on the digital financial system in some way?
Exactly. Think online shopping, paying bills, managing investments. It all depends on these systems working securely and reliably.
So DORA impacts everyone, right? It's about protecting the stability and security of the digital world we live in.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is that DORA could actually have a ripple effect beyond the financial sector.
Really?
Yeah, the principles it outlines, like building resilience, focusing on third-party risk management, fostering a culture of cyber awareness. These are valuable lessons for any organization, regardless of industry.
So DORA is like a blueprint for a more secure and resilient digital future.
For everyone.
That's a really compelling thought. But we've only just scratched the surface here. There's so much more to DORA and its implications.
So much more.
And we'll be back to explore all of that in part 2 of our deep dive into DORA and PAM.
See you there. Welcome back to our DORA deep dive.
We've laid the groundwork, talked about what DORA is all about, and how PAM is like that super strong security system.
Right, for those crucial digital assets.
Now let's get into the specifics of how PAM helps meet those DORA requirements,
With some real-world examples.
Exactly. Let's start with Article 6, that ICT risk management framework.
It's the foundation of your whole digital resilience strategy.
Okay, so how does PAM actually make this framework stronger?
Well, think of it like building a house. You need a strong foundation.
Right, you can't build on sand.
Exactly. And PAM helps you create that by first identifying and mapping your critical assets and those privileged access points.
So knowing what you need to protect and where those weak spots are.
Yeah, like taking inventory of everything valuable in your house, not just the obvious stuff.
Yeah, like jewelry and cash.
Right, but also important documents, family heirlooms, even that spare key you hid.
You gotta know where everything is before you can secure it.
Exactly. And once you have that detailed inventory, PAM helps you put the right security measures in place. Think multi-layered defenses.
Like strong locks, motion sensors, maybe even a security system.
Exactly. But it's not just about physical security. PAM also helps with things like role-based access control.
RBAC.
Yeah, RBAC. Make sure only the right people have access to certain areas.
So it's like giving different keys to different people based on their role.
Exactly. The kids might have a key to the front door, but not to the safe.
Makes sense. And then there's multi-factor authentication, that extra layer of security.
Right, like a secret code or fingerprint scan, like in those spy movies.
Exactly. And PAM also helps you keep an eye on everything, constantly monitoring.
Right, those cameras and sensors are always recording.
So with PAM, you have a much stronger foundation for managing those ICT risks.
Absolutely. You know, to protect, you've got the security, and you're constantly monitoring.
That's just the beginning, right?
Oh yeah, there's more. Let's move on to Article 8, which focuses on identification.
Okay, so DORA wants you to be super aware of all your ICT risks, including cyber threats.
Right. It's not just about knowing where your valuables are, but also understanding the potential threats out there.
So, like being aware of your surroundings.
Yeah, like assessing the neighborhood your house is in. Are there any burglars operating in the area? Any dark alleys where someone could hide?
You need to understand the risks to take precautions.
Exactly. And PAM helps you do that digitally by pinpointing those privileged access points.
Because those are like the master keys to your system.
Exactly. And that's why cyber criminals love them.
So PAM helps you create a map of all those accounts and what they're doing.
Precisely. Like a surveillance system, tracking those master keys, making sure they're not being misused.
PAM sounds even more important now.
It really is. And we're just getting started. Let's move on to Article 9, all about protection and prevention.
Now things are getting interesting.
Article 9 outlines how to protect your systems and data, and PAM has all these tools to help.
It's like equipping your house with the latest security gadgets.
Exactly. One example is continuous monitoring. PAM provides real-time monitoring of all privileged access activity, so you can see anything suspicious immediately.
Like those laser beams and pressure plates in spy movies?
I love that. And if someone trips those sensors, PAM can trigger alerts or even block that activity.
So it's not just detecting, but also automatically defending.
Exactly. And then there's data protection. Article 9 emphasizes confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data.
So it's not just about access, but protecting the data itself.
Right. PAM helps by enforcing strong authentication, encryption, and robust monitoring.
So it's like a vault within a vault for that sensitive data.
You got it. And don't forget documentation. PAM helps you document all these measures, which is crucial for proving you comply with DORA.
So you've got the blueprints, the security system, and the paperwork to prove it.
Exactly. You can confidently show the regulators you're doing everything right.
Okay, so we've talked about managing risks, identifying vulnerabilities, and putting protection in place. But what happens if something slips through? How do you even know there's a problem?
That's where Article 10 comes in, focusing on detection.
This is where PAM really shines, right?
Absolutely. DORA wants mechanisms in place to detect those ICT anomalies and incidents ASAP.
So finding problems quickly.
Exactly. And PAM is a master of detection, constantly monitoring for any signs of trouble.
Like a team of cybersecurity detectives.
Always on the case. PAM looks for suspicious activity, failed logins, access from strange locations, anything off.
So it's not just reacting to alarms, but noticing those subtle clues.
Precisely. PAM triggers real-time alerts, so your security team can investigate and respond quickly.
Like those infrared sensors that detect changes in heat, alerting you before an intruder even steps inside.
Great analogy. And that speed is crucial. The faster you detect a threat, the less damage it can cause.
Which brings us to Article 11, Response and Recovery.
Right, it's not just about prevention, it's about knowing what to do when something happens.
So like having an escape plan for your house in case of a fire.
Exactly. And PAM is part of that plan. It lets you immediately restrict privileged access during an incident.
So containing the damage and stopping it from spreading.
Exactly. Like locking down certain areas to prevent an intruder from getting everywhere.
Damage control is key.
Absolutely. And then PAM helps with the investigation too by providing detailed logs of all privileged user activity.
So it's like having a record of every move the intruder made.
Exactly. Those logs are super helpful for investigators.
And once you've contained the damage and investigated, you need to get back on your feet.
Right, and that's where PAM's backup and recovery capabilities come in. It ensures those backups are secure and can be restored quickly.
So rebuilding your house using the blueprints and saved possessions.
Exactly. Minimizing downtime and getting everything back up and running.
So PAM helps you be prepared, not just reactive.
Precisely. It's about building resilience into everything you do. But our DORA journey isn't over yet.
Welcome back, everyone, for the final part of our DORA deep dive.
We've talked about how PAM helps you build that digital fortress around your sensitive data.
Right, and how it helps you check off a ton of those DORA requirements.
But DORA's isn't just about what's happening inside your organization.
It's about the outside world, too.
Exactly. Those relationships with third-party providers, especially for ICT services.
Right. Hardly anyone does everything in-house these days.
You've got cloud providers, software vendors, all sorts of third parties involved.
And DORA knows those third parties can be a risk if their security isn't good enough.
That's why Articles 21, 22, and 28 specifically address third-party risk management and supervisory feedback.
So let's look at those articles. Starting with Article 28, it lays out those general principles for managing those ICT third-party providers.
It's all about due diligence.
Right, really vetting those providers.
Making sure they meet those same high standards DORA wants from you.
It's like choosing a contractor. You don't just pick anyone.
You check their references, look at their past work.
Make sure they're licensed and insured.
Exactly. You need to be just as thorough with your ICT providers, especially since they'll have access to your systems and data.
So it's not just about signing a contract and hoping for the best.
You need to manage those relationships and make sure they're not creating vulnerabilities.
And PM can help with that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
PM gives you that visibility into who's accessing your systems and what they're doing.
So you can see what those third-party contractors are up to.
Precisely. Those PM logs and reports show you exactly who's accessing what, when, and from where.
So it's like having security cameras even where those contractors are working.
Exactly. You can make sure they're only going where they should be.
Not snooping around where they shouldn't.
Right. And PAM can even alert you if someone tries to access data they're not supposed to.
It's like having a security guard watching those cameras, ready to step in.
Exactly. And this visibility isn't just for you. It's important for showing the regulators you're doing things right.
Because Article 28 also mentions audits.
You need to prove you're keeping an eye on things.
And PM makes those audits easier.
Oh yeah, much easier.
Those logs and reports show the auditors exactly how you're managing those risks.
It's like having all your paperwork organized for the tax auditor.
Exactly. And speaking of regulators, let's talk about Article 22, which is all about supervisory feedback.
Okay, so this is about the regulators giving feedback to financial institutions.
Right, providing guidance.
Exactly. Article 22 says those authorities can share information about ICT incidents, even anonymized data on similar threats.
So it's like a knowledge-sharing network helping everyone improve their security.
Exactly. And PAM can play a role here too. Remember those detailed logs? They can be really helpful for understanding how incidents happened.
So it's like analyzing a crime scene.
Yeah, looking for clues to understand how it happened and how to prevent it in the future.
And by sharing those PAM logs, everyone can learn from each other.
Identify patterns, trends, best practices.
It's like pooling your security knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. And DORA really encourages that collaborative approach.
Okay, we've talked about managing those third-party risks and sharing information with regulators, but there's one more article I want to touch on, Article 21, which deals with centralized ICT incident reporting.
That one's still being explored, but it's an interesting idea.
What's the idea behind it?
Well, Article 21 looks at creating a single EU hub for reporting major ICT incidents.
Like a central command center for cybersecurity.
Exactly. The goal is to streamline reporting, reduce costs, and ensure consistency across the EU. And PAM can play a role here too, since it centralizes all those logs and reports.
So it would be easier to comply with those reporting requirements.
Absolutely. It's like having a standardized form that everyone uses.
Easier to track and analyze incidents that way.
Exactly. And regulators really like that centralized visibility.
So even though Article 21 is still in development, it shows how important those reporting mechanisms are.
And PAM can be a valuable tool for meeting those requirements now and in the future.
We've covered a lot of ground, from the basics of DORA to the specifics of how PAM helps organizations navigate this complex landscape.
It's been quite a journey.
We've seen how PAM acts like that high-security vault, protecting those important digital assets.
And how it goes beyond internal operations to manage those third-party risks and keep those regulators informed.
I think the key takeaway is that DORA isn't just about checking boxes, it's about building a more resilient and secure financial ecosystem for everyone.
Absolutely. Protecting what matters and being ready for whatever challenges come our way.
So as we wrap up, what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember?
DORA is a game changer. It's raising the bar for digital resilience, and those who embrace it will be in a much stronger position to face the challenges and opportunities of the digital age.
Well said. And remember, the more you know about DORA and the tools available, like PAM, the better equipped you'll be to protect your organization and thrive in this ever-changing world.
Couldn't agree more.
That's it for our deep dive into DORA and PAM. We encourage you to check out the resources mentioned in the show notes and keep learning about this important topic. Until next time, happy deep dive.